Confined space entry procedures. Confined spaces pose a high risk of injury and death. Hazards in confined spaces can result in fire, explosion, unconsciousness, asphyxiation, engulfment, toxic exposure, or drowning. Confined space incidents can happen suddenly, often without any warning that something is wrong. Employers must take the necessary steps to ensure worker safety around confined space entry. Welcome to the Energy Safety Canada video series on confined space. This module examines some of the issues associated with entering a confined space. Donning and preparation. Here we have a group of workers as they would arrive to work in the morning. The tank behind them is what they will be entering. It doesn't seem the average worker would have any issue getting in this confined space before they have any PPE on. Each job will have PPE appropriate to address the hazards. This video shows workers donning common PPE for confined entry work. As workers don the required gear, we can see how size becomes an issue. Base layers, extra socks, FR coveralls, disposable coveralls, boots, Kevlar gloves, leather gloves, rescue harness, self-retracting lifeline, escape bottle, toques, hearing protection, radios, gas monitors, safety glasses, hard hat, and headlamps all contribute to the bulking up of the workers. Now our average worker will have a tight squeeze in order to access this vessel. Another point to be aware of is that it may not be possible to access a confined space with a SCBA. Even here, with a 24-inch access, this worker and a tank just don't fit. Keep this in mind for rescue operations. Entry with an SCBA tank may not be practical, and if a problem with the primary SCBA system is why the workers need to be rescued, this can be a significant problem. Buddy check. After donning all the appropriate PPE, it's always a good idea to go through a buddy check. This confirms that all equipment is fitted correctly, lines and harnesses are straight, and potential problems with snagging or entanglement are minimized.
Hey, brother. I'm good.
Workers should always be fit for duty and recognize the physical and mental abilities of themselves and their coworkers. Live entry. Accessing a tank or vessel might be simple, but simple doesn't always mean easy. When entering a space for the first time, the entry area can be unknown. Footing may be poor, or the area could be slick or supported poorly. It's always a good idea to try and look in and evaluate the space and where you're going to stand in. Examining the interior and passing the plane of the opening is entering the confined space. Workers must have appropriate PPE before performing this check. After donning all of the required PPE, it can be a tight fit for workers to get in or out of a confined space. In some cases, access from the above is required, and mechanical lifting may be needed to get in or out of a confined space. In these cases, additional fall protection training might be required. Consult the specific legislative requirements and company-safe work procedures. It is also common for workers to have to climb on ladders, both to access the confined space, but sometimes within it to move around. Wearing a full set of PPE, this can be a physically intensive task. Working on a rope or wire ladder can be quite a challenge. These ladders may be the only option, as fixed ladders are not always able to be deployed. Moving around within a confined space can be challenging as well. Some spaces are large empty vessels, while others are extremely tight and restricted. In many cases, pipes and debris are present, as are obstacles. It is common to encounter tripping and overhead hazards. Flagging, or using bright colors to mark hard-to-spot hazards, is one method of hazard identification. Equipment for cleaning or repair, and even lighting can become hazards. Exits. Another issue to consider when entering confined spaces is how fast they can be evacuated. With a small emergency escape bottle, this is an important consideration. Workers may need to take time to either retrace the route out to the exit or reach an alternative. How quickly they can exit and how fast workers use the escape air under stressful conditions need to be thought out. In some cases, workers may need to undergo decontamination procedures prior to removing supplied air or the escape air, in asbestos abatement, for example. This can add considerable time for a crew of workers to safely vacate a confined space. Before entering any confined space, think about how you might have to get out in an emergency and how long that might take. Vessel types. Due to the varied nature of confined space entry, many different types of spaces can be encountered. In addition to oil and gas processing, chemical industries, food processing, and agriculture all use confined space entry. Confined spaces are not always the cleanest. Understanding the issues with simply getting in and out of confined spaces is critical to working safely in a confined space environment. Be aware of the physical limits of the space and the people involved. In summary, please be aware of the risks in working in confined spaces.